Hi, I'm Thomas. I'm 37, a neurosurgeon, and last Saturday I walked into a lawyer's office to rewrite my will, because my sister tried to sneak her name onto it. It started with a text. Just 3 words. Can we talk? Julia never just wants to talk. With her, talk is always code for I need something, I broke something. Or I did something and now need you to fix it before Mom finds out. I didn't reply. I was in the middle of an overnight rotation, scrubbing in to remove a clot the size of a clementine from an 8-year-old's brainstem. But something in me registered the pattern. Julia only texts me before she acts when she knows what she's doing is legally questionable. So, imagine my mood when I woke up the next day, opened my email, and saw a notification from my estate planning lawyer. Subject: confirmation of requested changes to your revocable living trust. My stomach dropped like I just stepped off a curb in the dark. I hadn't requested any changes. Inside the email: per your request, we've added Julia Miller as a co-trustee and primary beneficiary should your parents predecease you. The rest blurred. I stared at the screen so long my coffee went cold. My first thought? There must be some mistake. My second thought? Julia got to someone. I called the office. They were polite. Confused. Your assistant dropped off the signed request form yesterday afternoon, they said. I don't have an assistant, I said. The receptionist paused. Oh. Well, she said she was your sister. She had all the correct identifiers. Apparently, Julia had walked into the office I'd trusted for a decade, smiled her way through the front desk, dropped off a forged form with my signature, and asked to make herself my sole heir if anything happened to our parents. And she almost got away with it. If the assistant hadn't remembered my habit of initialing the bottom corner of every page, a neurosurgeon tick from triple-checking or charts, the change would have gone through. Instead, they flagged it, froze all modifications, and called me. The lawyer's tone was apologetic, but measured. She had your license number, your birth date, your original trust documents. We're reporting the attempt. I was already shaking, but not from shock. This wasn't some new Julia. This was classic Julia, just with better props. She grew up watching me mop up every mess she made, and when she realized I wouldn't hand her the keys to my parents' beach house, she went after mine. I called her. She didn't pick up. I texted. You forged my signature. Call me now. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then the call came. Her voice? Breezy. Oh my God, don't be so dramatic. It was just a placeholder thing. In case something happened to you. Like a backup. A backup. Yeah. I thought it'd make things easier for everyone. You're always saying we need to simplify. I say you need to stop stealing. She gasped. Genuinely offended. Wow. Stealing? That's not what this is. No, you're right, I said, pulling up a screenshot of the forged form. This is fraud. It's identity theft. And if I report it, which I will, it's a felony. Oh my God, Tommy, you are not seriously threatening me with jail right now. I have 2 kids. You wouldn't. You have 2 kids, I said coldly. And this is what you're teaching them? She was silent. Then her voice softened. I just thought, we're family. You're always alone. What's the point of hoarding everything when you could just share? I've held a brain in my hands, pulsing and pink, and felt nothing but awe. But in that moment, all I felt was done. You tried to steal from me while our parents are still alive, I said. You crossed a line you're not coming back from. Tommy. I hung up. Then I drove to the lawyer's office with a binder and a printout of every Venmo transaction I'd ever made to her name. Because the next part? I wasn't just updating the trust. I was building a paper trail. The lawyer's name is Denise, and she's one of those people who never reacts on the first beat. No matter how shocking your story, she just blinks once, nods, and starts pulling forms. She forged your name, she said calmly. Yes. And tried to change the successor trustee, insert herself as primary beneficiary, and include a payout clause? Yes. She made a small, sharp sound. Not quite a laugh. Well, she said, that's ambitious. I handed over the folder I'd prepared that morning. Bank transfers? Cash App screenshots. An old email with the subject line. Can you please cover rent again? Just this once, promise. From 2019. All in all, over $73,000 sent to my sister over the last decade. I'm including this not because I want it back, I told Denise, but because I want a record. She's going to spin this. I need facts. Denise flipped through each sheet like a librarian skimming overdue notices. She's going to say you abandoned her, she said, not unkindly. She'll frame it as a sibling betrayal. She'll gather sympathy from people who don't know the difference between a boundary and a grudge. Already has, I muttered. Her Instagram stories are like a pity TED Talk. Denise made another note. We'll restructure the trust. You remain trustee. You'll appoint a secondary firm if something happens to you. She'll have no access. We'll include a no contest clause. A what? Anyone who tries to challenge the trust automatically forfeits any benefits. It'll hold up. Especially with this. She patted the folder. By the end of that hour, we had locked the door she tried to pry open. And yet, when I walked back out into the parking lot and sat in my car, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt heavy. Because this wasn't some abstract cousin I never liked. This was my sister. The girl I used to hold hands with when we crossed streets. The one who told me I was her hero when I got into med school. I remembered her scraping icing off her birthday cake because she hated frosting and I always ate the extra. I remembered staying up late helping her finish college essays she never submitted. I remembered every single version of her, and now this one, the version who tried to slide herself into my will like a parasite. And then, as if summoned by the sheer force of my thoughts, my phone rang. Caller ID, Dad? I answered. His voice was quiet. Hey, son. You coming for Sunday dinner? I closed my eyes. My parents didn't know yet. Not about the forgery. Not about the trust rewrite. Not about the legal storm their daughter was stirring while posting curated beach photos and captioning them. #family first. They deserve peace. But they also deserve truth. Yeah, I said finally. I'll be there. He sounded relieved. Good. Your sister will be there too. You two should talk. That sentence hit like cold water. Because nothing good has ever followed. You two should talk. But I said what I always say. Okay, Dad. See you Sunday. Then I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. And for the first time, I didn't see the fixer. I saw someone who was done being used. I was going to Sunday dinner. But not as their safety net. As their witness. Sunday dinner used to mean spaghetti and garlic bread. Julia used to insist on making dessert, and we used to lie about how good it was. That was before everything got soaked in the weird film of obligation and tension. Now it was just war in a casserole dish. When I walked in, Mom greeted me like she was afraid I might dissolve if she didn't hold on long enough. Dad clapped my shoulder like he was counting on me to be the adult in a house full of adults. And Julia? Julia was sitting at the table sipping wine like she hadn't tried to rob me blind 3 days ago. She smiled. Look who decided to show up. Kyle wasn't there. Probably off licking his wounds or Googling how to sue your sibling when you don't have a case. I sat down across from her. She poured me a glass without asking, like everything was normal. I didn't touch it. The conversation started civil, Mom asking about work, Dad complaining about the neighbor's leaf blower. Julia chiming in with little digs. Must be nice to just focus on your career. You know Tommy's always been the golden boy. He probably has a backup beach house somewhere. Some of us are just doing our best to keep up. The whole time, she looked at me like I should flinch. Like I should bend. And then she pushed it. Mom was reaching for a salad bowl when Julia dropped it casually. I was telling Kyle we should all go over the will again soon. Just in case. Things change, right? Dad froze with his fork halfway to his mouth. Mom paused mid-reach. I kept my voice calm. Oh? You planning another round of forgery, or just hoping I didn't notice the first one? Silence. Julia's smile went thin. I told you, that was a misunderstanding. No, I said, setting my fork down. A misunderstanding is when you forget to RSVP to a wedding. What you did was walk into my lawyer's office with stolen documents and try to insert yourself into my estate. Mom looked between us like someone watching her living room catch fire in slow motion. Wait, what's going on? Julia went straight into performance mode. Mom, he's twisting everything. I was trying to make sure if something ever happened to him, we'd know what to do. I was protecting the family. You know how he is, he doesn't tell anyone anything. It was just a form. It was a forged legal request to change the ownership of my trust. I said. You committed a crime, Julia. Dad's chair creaked as he shifted. Is that true? He asked her low. Julia's voice jumped an octave. I just wanted to make sure the kids had something. In case. I thought it made sense. I looked right at Mom. I didn't tell you sooner because I knew how it would feel. But she tried to take something that isn't hers. Again. Julia turned red. Oh, come on, like you're so innocent. You control everything. You act like you're the only adult in the family. You buy houses and trusts and drop money like it's nothing. But if I try to plan for the future, I'm a criminal? You didn't plan. I snapped. You stole. Mom stood, voice shaky. Okay, that's enough. This isn't how we do things. Then maybe we need to start doing them differently. I said. Dad cleared his throat. What exactly did she try to change? I reached into my jacket and pulled out the same folder from Denise's office. Laid it on the table. Everything. She tried to make herself sole beneficiary. Cut you two out entirely after you're gone. Add access rights to my bank account. Mom gasped. Dad stared like he was looking at a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Julia lunged across the table. You said you were going to let it go, she hissed. No, I said, calm as a scalpel. I said I wouldn't press charges. Yet. Dad looked at her like he didn't know what language she was speaking. Why, Julia? Why would you do that to your brother? She stared at him. No answer. Just tears now, the kind she pulls like a lever. I needed help, she whispered. We're drowning. Kyle lost his job, we're behind on everything, and Tommy has so much. I thought he'd understand. I thought he'd just let it go like he always does. I stood. Not this time. I turned to my parents. I'm updating the will. You'll both be protected. She'll be removed entirely. If I die tomorrow, nothing goes to her or through her. Julia's mouth dropped open. You're cutting me out? You cut yourself out, I said. I'm just putting it on paper. Then I left the house I once called home, without dessert, without a backward glance, without guilt. The first strike came Monday morning. I was in the middle of dictating notes on a post-op craniotomy when my phone started lighting up with texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Hey man, I heard what you did to your sister. Not cool. Family is everything, bro. Greed is gross. Your niece has a medical emergency and you're playing rich boy with paperwork? I blinked. Medical emergency? What medical emergency? Then the final message came through, from a friend of a friend I hadn't spoken to in years. Just saw Julia's post. Damn. You seriously refused to help when her kid was in the hospital? I stopped walking. Stood in the hallway of the hospital I practically live in, surrounded by the low hum of pagers and coffee breath, and felt the weight of it settle on my shoulders. Julia was spinning. Hard. I pulled up her profile. There it was, a blurry photo of her daughter Mia in a hospital bed, oxygen mask, cartoon blanket, eyes closed. The caption was a masterpiece of manipulation. Some people have everything but no heart. When your brother's a doctor but won't answer your call. When you have to choose between rent and an ambulance. When family means conditional love. Pray for Mia. I had not gotten a single call. Not a voicemail. Not a text. Nothing. And that photo? Dated last year. Mia had had a short ESMA-related stay. I'd even sent flowers and helped pay for the prescriptions afterward. She was using old pain as a weapon. I texted Julia one line. Take it down. No response. So I did what I do best, document. I took screenshots. Saved the post. Forwarded them to Denise. I even called the hospital listed on Mia's chart from that visit and confirmed with patient services that there was no current admission. She wasn't in crisis. She was cornered. And her response to being cornered was to throw me to the internet wolves. By lunchtime, my parents had called 3 times. I ignored the first 2. Picked up the third. Mom's voice was shaky. Thomas, your aunt just called me crying. She saw Julia's post. Then tell Aunt Elise to call me directly. I have the receipts. But did you really refuse to help Mia? My stomach flipped. Mom. She wasn't even in the hospital. That photo is from last year. And I did help. I always have. A long pause. I'm sorry, she said. It's just hard to know what to believe anymore. That sentence made my heart thud once in the wrong direction. Because when you grow up in a house where lies get smoothed over with guilt and called love, You start to believe that silence is safety. That if you don't explain yourself, if you don't stir things up, you're the good one. But silence is how people like Julia win. I decided right there, I wasn't going to be silent anymore. I wrote a single message and posted it privately in the family chat. No drama. Just facts. For the record, Julia attempted to forge legal documents to become my sole beneficiary. She is no longer included in my estate planning. Any financial support she has received is documented, and totals over $73,000. I do not wish to be involved in smear campaigns or emotional extortion. I love my niece and nephew, but I will not allow their parents to use them as pawns. Then I turned off my phone for 2 full days. No calls. No apologies. No new lies to sweat down like flies. Just quiet. I slept. I ran. I held a patient's hand as she woke up from surgery and told me she saw stars when I adjusted the clamp. I told her I hoped they were the good kind. She smiled. I lived my life, unhooked from the guilt for Julia had kept me on since I was 17. And when I turned my phone back on, everything had shifted. When I turned my phone back on, the silence was louder than any of the chaos. No more anonymous texts. No family group rants. No guilt-drenched messages from my mother begging me to call my sister. Just one voicemail. From Dad. Hey. I think we need to talk. All of us. Come by the house when you can. Not urgent. Not panicked. Just final. I knew what that meant. I knew what it sounded like when my father had made a decision. I drove to their place that night, stopping for a coffee I didn't drink. I rehearsed what I would say. I didn't want to attack. I didn't want to be cruel. I just wanted the truth to be visible. When I got there, Julia's car was already in the driveway. Figures. I stepped in, expecting the usual, Julia pacing, Mom wringing her hands, Dad trying to keep everyone from unraveling like old Christmas lights. But this time? Julia was already crying. And not the manipulative misty eyes from Sunday dinner. These were real tears. Red cheeks. Mascara freckles on her wrist. She didn't look at me when I walked in. Dad stood. He looked tired. Not weak, just done playing peacekeeper. We're having a family meeting, he said. And no one's leaving until we finish it. I sat. Mom folded a blanket over her lap like she was anchoring herself. Then she started. Julia told us what happened. All of it. My heart thudded once, then steadied. Told you? I asked. Julia wiped her face. I told them I tried to change the trust. I told them I lied about Mia being in the hospital. I told them everything. I waited. Because that was new. That was new Julia behavior. Dad nodded. She said you could have pressed charges. You didn't. I nodded once. Mom's voice was quiet. She also said she forged your name because she thought it was the only way she'd ever be safe. I tilted my head. That's not safety. That's control. Julia finally looked at me. Her eyes were wrecked. You were always safe, she said. You had everything figured out. School. Money. A plan. I was drowning, and you just kept being perfect. I blinked. I wasn't perfect. I was terrified every day. I learned to control things because it was the only way I survived. You think it was easy waking up at 4 a.m. to study anatomy with a stomach full of gas station peanuts and guilt? You think I didn't want to fall apart too? She flinched. But you didn't. You never broke. I leaned forward. Because I couldn't. Because when I broke, everything fell on Mom and Dad. And later on me again, when your kids needed braces, or Kyle lost another job, or your electricity got cut, and you sent me crying emojis instead of a budget. Julia started crying again. I'm sorry. I didn't reply right away. Because I didn't trust the first wave of emotion. Or the second. But after the third I nodded. I believe you're sorry. I looked at Mom. At Dad. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. That takes time. And boundaries. Dad took a breath. That's why we're changing things, he said. Starting tonight. He handed me a document. I scanned the first few lines. It was a notarized amendment to their living trust. In it, they clarified that I would retain control of any property or financial assets donated in their name. That no decisions could be made on their behalf without written consent. That all financial discussions must happen with all parties present. It was boring. Legal. And exactly what I needed to see. "We're tired," Mom said. "We're tired of pretending everyone's okay when they're not. And we're tired of watching you two destroy each other from opposite corners." Julia wiped her nose. "I don't want your money," she said softly. "I just want some of what you have. The calm. The structure." I sighed. "That's not something I can give you. That's something you have to build." She nodded. And for the first time in years, I saw something real pass across her face. Not pity. Not resentment. Just a tiny sliver of accountability. We weren't fixed. We weren't healed. But maybe we'd finally stopped the bleeding. 2 quiet weeks passed. No drama. No texts. No cryptic posts from Julia. No cease and desist memes from Kyle. My parents looked lighter. My phone stayed quiet. For the first time in years, I exhaled. So naturally, that was when Kyle showed up. I was at the beach house, helping Dad fix a crooked cabinet. Mom peeked out the window and froze. "It's Kyle," she whispered. I opened the door slowly. Kyle stood there in jeans, holding a manila envelope. No smug grin, no sunglasses. Just tired eyes. "I came to talk," he said. "Just me." I didn't move. Didn't invite him in. Just stepped outside and closed the door behind me. He took a breath. "I messed up. I know. I told myself you were arrogant, selfish. But I think I was just ashamed. You helped. And I resented that. Because it meant admitting I couldn't do it alone." I didn't speak. He handed me the envelope. Inside, a handwritten letter. Pages long. Honest. Sloppy. Not polished like Julia's dramatics. Real. "I'm not here for a second chance at the house," he said. "Or the trust. I just wanted to look you in the eye and say I was wrong." I looked at him. "You're not getting keys. Or access. Or sympathy if this turns out to be another setup." "I know." He turned to go, then paused. "You think you'll ever come to dinner again? With all of us?" "Maybe," I said. "If this sticks." Later, I gave the letter to Dad. He skimmed it. Nodded. "I think he means it," he said. "Maybe," I replied. "But meaning it is only the first rep. Change is the workout." That night, we drank tea on the porch. For the first time in a long time, the house didn't feel like it was bracing for another storm. It felt still. 3 weeks after Kyle showed up with that envelope, something strange happened. Julia called. No cryptic Instagram stories. No vague guilt texts. Just a direct call on a Sunday morning while I was making coffee. For a second, I thought it was a pocket dial. But then I heard her voice. "Hi," she said. "I'm not going to lie or beg. I just want to talk. Real talk. If that's okay." I stood there in my kitchen, staring at the cabinets like they had answers. "Go ahead." Her voice was quiet. Different. Not the sugary whisper she used to weaponize guilt. Not the performance she perfected for years. "I started therapy," she said. Not the free church kind where they give you pamphlets about forgiveness. Actual therapy. With a woman who didn't smile when I said I was overwhelmed. She told me I sound like a drowning person who keeps grabbing other people's boats. She gave a little laugh. It wasn't bitter. It was tired. I told her everything. About the forged trust. About the money. About how I used Mom's tears like a get-out-of-jail card. I thought I needed control. But really, I just wanted someone to blame when I hated myself. I leaned on the counter. "I appreciate the honesty." She paused. "Do you hate me?" "No," I said, and I meant it. "I just don't trust you. And I'm not going to fake closeness so you can feel better. That's not how healing works." She exhaled. "I get it. I do." Later that week, I went to the beach house. Not to fix anything. Not to reset locks or file claims. Just to be there. Mom made grilled cheese. Dad brewed sun tea. We sat on the deck, watching the waves. The silence was the kind that doesn't ask you to fill it. Midway through lunch, Dad touched my arm. "You did the hard thing," he said. "You told the truth when it would have been easier to just let it rot. I'm proud of you, son." That night, I opened the pantry to grab a snack and found a note taped inside. Mom's handwriting. "Thank you for this house. Not the walls or the porch or the view, but the calm. We didn't know we were waiting for peace until you made space for it. I folded that note and kept it in my wallet. Because love isn't always about giving. Sometimes it's about guarding. Sometimes it's about saying, this far, no further. Sometimes love is a locked door. And the courage to keep it locked.